나 관심 없던데?
When a handsome CEO falls in love with a poor orphan girl who suffers from memory loss. He is facing a difficult situation in his life as he is forced to end his romantic relationship with his girlfriend. Ji-hyung felt like a coward for not being able to hold on to the woman he loved, especially since he had already gone too far in his relationship with Soo-yeon, even frequently sleeping with her. Before deciding to end their relationship, Ji-hyung invited Soo-yeon to meet and check into a hotel. He eased his longing for Soo-yeon through tender touches in bed, just like they had done many times before. Soo-yeon always appeared strong and didn't shed a single tear when Ji-hyung let go of his final embrace before leaving the hotel. However, while in the restroom, Soo-yeon still couldn't imagine the thought of her lover standing beside another woman. Soo-yeon realized that no matter how beautifully she dressed up or how perfect she looked, she would still be cast aside for a woman whose status was more fitting for Ji-hyung.
너 죽어도 싫댔어.
그 여자랑 몇 번이나 잤다면서.
After returning from the hotel, Ji-hyung continued to refuse his fiancé's invitations to meet. Ji-hyung chose to go to the office and focus on finishing his work. Meanwhile, Soo-yeon went back to her usual routine. She aspired to become a writer, but that dream felt distant because it turned out that Soo-yeon was suffering from early onset dementia and the cause was still unknown. Even though she had been taking her medication regularly, the illness continued to interfere with Soo-yeon's daily life. When she got home, she prepared a meal for her younger brother, Moon-kwan. For some reason, Soo-yeon had recently been forgetting important plans, including a dinner at her aunt's house. She quickly went after her younger brother and, without realizing it, left the stove on in the kitchen.
알았어, 가. 금방 가.
In front of Jaemin, Soo-yeon's best friend and cousin, Ji-hyung admitted that he had been in a romantic relationship with Soo-yeon that had gone too far. But everything has now come to an end because Ji-hyung has to marry the daughter of a conglomerate named Hyang Ji-ai to obey his parents' wishes. He apologized to Jaemin and asked him to take care of Soo-yeon, hoping that she would find a good man to be by her side.
됐어. 박지영.
Soo-yeon's memory loss continued to cause problems for her, ranging from simple issues to more complex ones. Once again, she forgot to turn off the stove after boiling water in the kettle, causing it to burn. Not only that, she also forgot that her office was holding a hiking event with her coworkers on Sunday. She even canceled her participation because she was left behind by the group. On the other hand, Hyang Ji-ai, who was becoming more determined to get Ji-hyung's attention, came to his house early in the morning. She suddenly entered Ji-hyung's room and kissed him on the lips while he was asleep. Thinking it was Soo-yeon, Ji-hyung returned the kiss affectionately. But he suddenly got angry when he opened his eyes and saw that it was Hyang Ji-ai who had kissed him. He firmly scolded Hyang Ji-ai for barging into his room, but a moment later, he apologized for his harsh behavior. All this time, he considered Hyang Ji-ai nothing more than his sister. Today, they are getting ready to head to the studio for their pre-wedding photoshoot. But before that, they have to do a wedding dress fitting first. From earlier, Ji-hyung hadn't shown a cheerful face at all, making the people around him feel uncomfortable with his attitude.
네, 좋습니다.
좀 더 싱글벙글해야 하는 거 아니에요?
When he was with Hyang Ji-ai, he kept remembering the happy days with Soo-yeon, how the two of them romantically embraced by the beach, and the time they kissed in the swimming pool. It wasn't that easy for him to erase her from his mind. Every time he looked at his phone, he would always call Soo-yeon, hoping to find out how she was doing, but unfortunately, the girl never answered. Forgetting that today was Monday, Soo-yeon ended up being late to the office, thinking it was still Sunday. She had been lounging around at home until her younger brother reminded her to head to work. At the office, Soo-yeon had another memory lapse during lunch break. She forgot that she was the one who had ordered the curry and ended up arguing with the waiter. She then left the restaurant without paying the bill, even though she had promised to treat her friends. When got home, Soo-yeon was still having issues because Thought had sent her assignment to her boss's email, but it turned out she hadn't sent it at all. Not wanting her condition to get worse and interfere with her daily life, Soo-yeon went to the hospital to get a medical checkup. She complained that she had been experiencing severe headaches for some time, to the point where she had to take painkillers quite frequently. And that wasn't all. During medical tests, Soo-yeon experiences a lot of memory loss. Even though previously, as she used to have a sharp memory and was quite smart in handling problems, Soo-yeon was completely shocked when the doctor diagnosed her condition as early symptoms of dementia and told her she needed to undergo regular treatment to prevent it as early as possible. Knowing that his older sister returned home by taxi surprised Moon-kwan because usually his older sister drives her own car. It turned out that Soo-yeon had just remembered that she went to the hospital by car, then left it in the hospital parking lot and came home by hailing a taxi. After realizing that this illness had truly disrupted the peace in her life, Soo-yeon became restless and kept pacing back and forth, screaming at the top of her lungs. In her turmoil, Soo-yeon kept remembering the beautiful memories she shared with Ji-hyung. Even though she tried to forget him, she didn't want memories of their love story to just disappear. She could still feel the warmth of Ji-hyung's embrace even now. When it came to that man, Soo-yeon felt like her memory was still very normal. On the other hand, not wanting the woman he loved to suffer after their marriage, Ji-hyun left a check with a sum of money to be given to Soo-yeon as a starting point for a better life. She wants Soo-yeon to fulfill her dream of becoming a famous writer and pleads with Jae-min to support her ambition. When they were still together, he had once promised to cover all of Soo-yeon's living expenses and make her happy for the rest of her life, but fate had other plans. He thought that with the check, he could at least make up for his mistakes towards Soo-yeon a little. During lunch, she treated her cousin who was trying to convince Soo-yeon that she should pursue her dream of becoming a famous writer. Soo-yeon is the winner of a novel writing competition and has to explore her talents. However, Soo-yeon is not tempted by her job at all because her illness will definitely hinder her performance later.
그 녀석도 비슷한 얘기했었냐?
알긴 됐고.
On the other hand, in order to return to see the doctor as scheduled, Soo-yeon asks her boss for permission and lies that she has a toothache. Because she came alone, Soo-yeon was reprimanded by the doctor as she needed a guardian or family member to clearly communicate her illness and help care for the patient while at home. She truly felt devastated after hearing the diagnosis that her brain was suffering from dementia like the brain of elderly people in their 70s. And what's even worse, the disease is incurable. Although the condition is not currently fatal, the disease is truly dangerous because it will erase all of Soo-yeon's memories.
설마요.
Soo-yeon begins to think about the bad possibilities that will happen to her in the future. If her condition worsens, she would end up like a living corpse, unable to remember anything, not even her family or the people she loves. How could Soo-yeon forget the kindness of the aunt who took care of her after her parents died? However, according to the doctor's explanation, slowly but surely the disease can erase Soo-yeon's memory. To her, this illness truly felt like a terrible curse. To prevent herself from forgetting, when home, Soo-yeon started memorizing the items in her kitchen and living room. She started writing down her entire daily schedule, from waking up to bedtime, on a memo stuck to the refrigerator. She wrote everything down in detail, including cooking soup, which required to time it using phone and set a reminder alarm to go off when the food was done. Even though she tried her best to prepare everything, again and again, Soo-yeon forgot which spices to add when she made the soup. Not only forgetful, Soo-yeon is sensitive when someone calls her forgetful, even though she is still relatively young. Maybe for others, it's a joke, but for Soo-yeon, dementia is an embarrassing disease and a punishment for her. Soo-yeon really can't remember the names of the objects she uses every day for work, like scissors and highlighters, until her younger brother quips that his older sister is senile at a young age. Even though it was a joke, Soo-yeon was very emotional. She kept crying non-stop and locked herself in her room. Soo-yeon even refused to eat together even though her younger brother kept apologizing.
누나. 누님.
Soo-yeon has been used to living independently, but this disease came and destroyed everything. Soo-yeon imagines how it would be if she continues like this, and that would definitely be very troublesome. In order to anticipate not forgetting later, Soo-yeon went back to learning and memorizing various toiletries, even down to makeup. To appear normal in front of the mirror, Soo-yeon reassures herself that she is strong enough to face all of this and affirms to her reflection that her identity is Soo-yeon, a woman in her 30s, a member of the writing team at a publishing company, and a talented, intelligent woman who has won a novel writing competition. The next morning, So-yeon tried to start the day on a better note. As much as possible, she avoided any kind of negligence. She records all her activities before leaving for the office and checks her list once they are completed. While enjoying the meal served on the dining table, she forbade her younger brother from working part-time at the bakery and asked him to focus on his studies. However, her younger brother firmly refused because he wanted to save up a lot of money to help pay for his older sister's future wedding.
알바 그만둬봤자 그 시간 다 빈둥빈둥으로 날아가요. 빈둥빈둥.
During the journey until arriving at the office, Soo-yeon was so proud because she was able to go to work without any problems. In fact, today she was the earliest employee to arrive at the office. To dispel his worries, she tried to come to terms with small mistakes such as forgetting to turn off the bathroom faucet or forgetting to put coffee and sugar in the coffee maker and other similar incidents.
팀장님, 우리 커피 떨어졌어요?
Meanwhile, at home, Moon-kwon was shocked and devastated after seeing a sheet containing a health report and Indemonisha's medication prescription in his older sister's bedroom. He could no longer hold back his tears after researching more about the disease his older sister was suffering from on the internet. He deeply regretted the joke he made yesterday, who calling Soo-yeon forgetful. No wonder his older sister got so angry without any clear reason. He immediately informed Jae-min about the situation. Although he was devastated and in disbelief, Jae-min tried to comfort Moon-kwon and insisted that such a disease usually only affects the elderly, not a young woman like Soo-yeon.
노인 질환인데 있을 수 없는 일이잖아.
그러니까요.
The two of them made sure to go to the hospital themselves to ask the doctor about Soo-yeon's diagnosis. Jae-min and Moon-kwon's arrival brought a sense of relief to the doctor. Previously, the doctor was worried the patient didn't have any relatives, and that would be very sad for her. Moreover, the patient has to face the pain all by themselves without anyone to guide, support, and accompany them.
희귀하게는 아동 알츠하이머도 있어요.
The statement from the doctor made Moon-kwon even more frustrated and upset. He couldn't bear the thought of his older sister hiding her pain all by herself just because she didn't want to worry the family. Moon-kwon tried to stay calm, even though tears silently streamed down his face. Jae-min asks Moon-kwon to keep pretending like he doesn't know anything, while Soo-yeon can't tell him yet. He was sure that Soo-yeon was just waiting for the right moment to tell the people she loved about her illness.
지금만으로도 감당하기 힘들 텐데.
Meanwhile, at Aunt's house, Soo-yeon wanted to spend time chatting after coming home from work. All this time, Aunt had been so proud of Soo-yeon for her independence, to the point that she could work in an office and live a decent life with her younger brother. Her praise often made Myung-hae feel jealous of Soo-yeon. This time, she came to get rid of the nagging curiosity that had been haunting her. For the first time, Soo-yeon wanted to ask her aunt about her mother's whereabouts. She wondered whether her mother was still alive or had already passed away. In her memory, when she was little, her mother left her and her younger brother after her father died. Her aunt couldn't provide a comforting explanation, as she believed their mother had vanished off the face of the earth. Not wanting to see the person who had raised her feel sad, Soo-yeon changed the subject by giving her a shopping voucher to the shopping center. Although reluctant at first, Aunt eventually accepted it to make Soo-yeon proud. In the spacious courtyard of Ji-hung's large company office, Hyang Ji-ai cried deeply and knelt down before her mother. She begged her mother to stop scolding her fiancé. Even though Ji-hung had always been cold and refused to attend the family meeting with the bride-to-be's relatives, however, she still defended him. He threatened suicide if his mother canceled his second wedding party. In order to cheer up Hyang Ji-ai, who has sacrificed a lot for him, Ji-hung finally agrees to accompany her shopping at the furniture store to furnish her new home and accompany her in a cooking class event. Yesterday, his father was furious because Ji-hung could only take 4 days off for the wedding instead of 15. It didn't stop there. His mother also kept pleading with Ji-hung to focus more on the wedding plans and not to overwork himself. In the midst of his busy schedule, Ji-hung still misses Soo-yeon and asks Jae-min to give his cousin's cell phone number that he can contact.
사실 난 제대로 끝내지도 못했어.
제대로가 어떤 건데?
While smiling to hide his tears, he held Soo-yeon's hand as they walked down the stairs. He asked her for permission to give her phone number to Ji-hung. But firmly, Soo-yeon refused. She didn't want to hear Ji-hung's voice again because it would only reopen old wounds.
까맣게 다 잊어버려. 길에서 만나도 누구. 그럴 건데.
In front of his two cousins, Jae-min looks so strong, but in fact he is fragile and cannot bear to see Soo-yeon suffer. He spent the entire night on his laptop searching for information about dementia's disease and its treatments. Even though his mother had served a delicious meal, he had no appetite as he thought of Soo-yeon all day. Instead of finishing the food in front of him, Jae-min preferred to fulfill Ji-hung's request to drink together.
결국엔 너까지 잃는 거 아닌가?
To release all the feelings that were suffocating her chest, Soo-yeon kept drinking alcohol. She followed it up by singing a sad song until tears fell from her eyes. At the same time, Ji-hyung and Jae-min are having a tense moment as Jae-min keeps refusing Ji-hyung's request for So-yeon's phone number. He intended to vent longing for his best friend's cousin, but now Jae-min no longer supports him. Not expecting Dr. Kim, treating Soo-yeon greet him, Jae-min avoids him and rushes home so that Ji-hyung doesn't question his conversation with the doctor. Jae-min speaks up. In the end, Ji-hyung finds out that Soo-yeon is suffering from dementia and requires intensive treatment. The world seemed to collapse for him. He truly felt useless as a man who loved Soo-yeon because he found out about her illness too late. For years, Ji-hyung had a happy romantic relationship with Soo-yeon, but now he has abandoned her while she is struggling with pain. Unable to think clearly, he is just silent and arrives home without answering his mother's questions when she welcomes his home. When with Soo-yeon, Ji-hyung is really very loved. Tonight, he couldn't close his eyes. He remembers the times he spent with Soo-yeon. It all began when they met at an art exhibition and later walked hand in hand, enjoying the night by the Han River. Ji-hyung completely ignored it when Hyang Ji-ai sent messages about so many of her scheduled plans for the day before their wedding. Meanwhile, worried about Soo-yeon's condition, Jae-min followed her and escorted her home. While walking together, Soo-yeon kept resting her head on Jae-min's shoulder. She thanked him for always being there for her. Heavily drunk, she kept rambling and told her cousin not to date anyone because it would make her jealous. She didn't want his attention to be diverted. As a sibling, Jae-min holds a special place in Soo-yeon's heart. The next morning, Ji-hyun's arrival at Soo-yeon's office was surprising. For the sake of the woman he loved, he asked her to undergo treatment at the hospital where his father worked, and of course, with Jae-min's approval as her guardian.
6시부터 아버지 병원에 검사 예약 잡아놨어.
Could only shed tears, Soo-yeon truly didn't expect that the two men in front of her had found out about her illness. Instead of being willing to accept treatment, Soo-yeon screamed and refused loudly because she felt that her memory wasn't a problem and she could still live life like a normal person in general. Soo-yeon really didn't want to be pitied by anyone, especially by the man who left her for another woman. Due to her unstable emotional state and weak body, Soo-yeon limped along until she fell towards the door. When trying to help her, Ji-hyung faced rejection because Soo-yeon preferred help from her cousin. Only able to sob uncontrollably, Soo-yeon screamed loudly in Jae-min's embrace. Soo-yeon's rejection made Ji-hyung so miserable that he could only cry over his helplessness. Meanwhile, at Myung-hee's bakery, Moon-kwon intends to resign to fulfill his older sister's request. However, because Moon-kwon is one of the customer attractions, Myung-hee kept him from resigning. She became doubtful about Soo-yeon, who suddenly told her younger brother to stop working due to a personal grudge. Actually, Moon-kwon wanted to stop working so he could take care of his older sister at home. At Jae-min's request, he rushed home to try and persuade her to agree to get treatment. However, instead of being welcomed, he was scolded by his older sister for daring open the drawer in the room. He also shared all of these secrets with Jae-min. Soo-yeon struggles to keep it to herself so that those around her won't worry, but her younger brother ends up making everything so complicated. Whereas Soo-yeon tried her best to appear as if everything was fine. To vent his disappointment, Moon-kwon shouted and cried in frustration. If only he could trade places, he wished he could take his older sister's illness so that she could be saved and live a longer, happier life. However, none of this would be possible. All he can do now is prevent her illness from progressively deteriorating.
너무 엄청난 일이라 혼자 감당할 수가 없었어.
After scolding her younger brother, Soo-yeon acted calm as if nothing had happened. She then ordered a lot of food because her brother hadn't eaten yet. On the other hand, Hyun Ji-ai's mother went to Ji-hyun's house and asked that her future daughter-in-law get hospital treatment. She suspected that Ji-hyun was experiencing depression ahead of the wedding and needed proper treatment. As a good future mother-in-law, she had prepared a prestigious position for Ji-hyun once he married her daughter. She planned to appoint him as the CEO of one of her companies. On the balcony of the skyscraper, the frustrated Ji-hyun could only recall the memories he experienced with Soo-yeon. Considering that only Soo-yeon was able to make him smile and forget all his problems. The words still echoed clearly in his ears as the girl he loved kept repeating beautiful words as many times as she could. While watching thousands of vehicles passing by, Ji-hyun remained silent and kept looking for a way for Soo-yeon to truly recover as she once was. While at his office, Ji-hyun kept thinking about Soo-yeon, distracting him at work. He then thought about how he could break away from Hyun Ji-ai and face him a gentleman. Meanwhile, at her bakery, Myung-hee was scolded Moon-kwon for quitting job at her shop and choosing to work part-time at a convenience store instead. According to her, this is an insult. She believes Soo-yeon is influencing her younger brother as the salary at her bakery is considered too low. To calm her cousin's anger, after work Soo-yeon took the time to stop by Myung-hee's store and explained that Moon-kwon needed to focus on his studies and shouldn't work too long. She allowed Moon-kwon to work at the convenience store only because it was for 5 hours, not a full half-day like at her bakery. Finally, she was able to face Myung-hee so calmly, although her cousin seemed ready to pounce. All day at the office, Si-yeon felt there were no obstacles. As long as she kept track of her work schedule, everything would continue to run smoothly. She was highly professional in welcoming a source who would later be featured in the autobiography she was working on. However, she had a bit of trouble remembering the names of prominent figures who would serve as reference points for her next book. While eating with Jaemin's family, Myung-hee kept talking about her disappointed in Soo-yeon and her younger brother. All this time, she had actually been feeling jealous because her mother seemed to care more about her cousin than about her. Although not evil, her words are quite blunt in criticizing Soo-yeon. She also wondering why Jaemin had to deliver the medicine from the doctor to Soo-yeon.
서연이 어디 아프니?
To keep the promise, he lied to his family that Soo-yeon was sick due to exhaustion. He doesn't want his family to worry because yesterday Soo-yeon asked him to keep her illness a secret. While both his parents and Hyang Ji-ai's parents were eager to strengthen their relationship as future in-laws. At the same time, Ji-hyung actually wants to end it, because now he could no longer bear to maintain the lie that kept tormenting his soul. The plan made him like a living corpse. His body was with Hyang Ji-ai, but his heart and mind were only for So-yeon. After work, he decided to invite Hyang Ji-ai to meet at a fancy restaurant and have dinner together. In the midst of a conversation about marriage, she never expected that the man she loved would break her heart. Hyang Ji-ai, who was initially smiling enthusiastically because of her fiancé's proposal, now finds her heart shattered after Ji-hyung insisted on canceling the wedding. Ji-hyung actually believes he never really loved Hyang Ji-ai and has another woman. He admitted being obliged to his parents, who have kept a good relationship for decades with Hyang Ji-ai's family. Hyang Ji-ai's heart was devastated after hearing that, and she experienced shock, her head dizzy, causing her to vomit everything in her stomach. She never expected Ji-hyung to be this cruel, especially since their wedding date was just days away. However, it turned out that Ji-hyung suddenly destroyed everything. Even though it was difficult and couldn't believe what Ji-hyung had just said, as much as it hurt, Hyang Ji-ai still pretended as if she was the one at fault in this matter. Everything she did was solely to defend Ji-hyung in front of her parents. Her body grew weaker on the way home. The girl almost fainted in bathroom until causing some of her servants to panic and think that Hyang Ji-ai was pregnant. It didn't take long for the shocking news to reach the ears of both Hyang Ji-ai's parents and Ji-hyung. How emotional Hyang Ji-ai's mother was seeing her daughter hurt. She kept cursing and swearing about how stupid her daughter was for still defending a jerk like Ji-hyung, who had even trampled on their family's dignity. In her curses, she was worried about her daughter's weak condition and even suspected that Hyang Ji-ai might be pregnant.
이 주제에 그런 생각을 어떻게 해? 무슨 똘똘해지는 레이저라도 맞았어?
As the wedding day approaches, Ji-hyung says he wants to break up even though the preparations are complete. As the most aggrieved party, Hyang Ji-ai's family cannot simply accept it. On the other hand, Hyang Ji-ai's father tries to calm his wife down and tries to face her with a cool head. He wanted to find a peaceful resolution to the problem and settle it the next day. According to him, this might be a misunderstanding because previously his wife had used Ji-hyung and wanted to end the wedding ceremony. Not much different at his home, Ji-hyung was being bombarded with harsh criticism by his father because of his very embarrassing behavior. He asked Ji-hyung to kneel and apologize in front of Hyang Ji-ai and wanted the wedding to proceed no matter what. Even though both of his parents kept insisting, Ji-hyung remained firm in his stance and was prepared to face any consequences. He honestly admitted that all this time he never had any feelings for Hyang Ji-ai other than a fondness as a younger sibling. He admitted he had another woman who needed love and protection, and that woman was not Hyang Ji-ai. Ji-hyung's father and mother don't want to listen to any explanation from him. Like it or not, the next day Ji-hyung has to correct his words in front of Hyang Ji-ai's entire family. Blinded by love, even though she was hurt, Hyang Ji-ai tried to comfort Ji-hyung and asked him to stay calm. Through a text message, she assured him that her father would never blame Ji-hyung.
그만두자고 내가 먼저 말했고.
Meanwhile, at her home, Soo-yeon refuses to take the dementia medication prescribed by the doctor. In front of Jae-min and her younger brother, she shouted and insisted that she would be fine without having to rely on that prescription. She also forbade Jae-min from caring about her anymore. To calm herself down, Soo-yeon fell asleep from late afternoon until midnight. Before resting, she had prepared dinner to share with her younger brother. However, she forgot to plug in the rice cooker cord and turn on the stove to cook sup, so that at night she was hungry that night while working on her assignments. Her negligence caused her to lash out angrily at Moon Kwan. Still, her younger brother tried to understand. Soo-yeon's illness really made her mood unstable. Upon hearing from Jae-min that Soo-yeon was sick, Aunt came to her apartment bringing a variety of delicious dishes that her niece loved. She didn't want Soo-yeon to live too independently and neglect her health. Aunt always reminded Soo-yeon that she should get married soon so someone could take care of her. Today, she came home from work earlier than usual because she needed to review documents from the professor that were stored on her laptop at home. Wanting to just say hello to her cousin, she took the time to stop by Myung-hee's bakery and tried to memorize each of the favorite bread names for dinner with Moon Kwan. Soo-yeon purposely doesn't cook because her younger brother will be coming home late to night shift. Meanwhile, Hyun Ji-ai's condition is worsening after being rejected by Ji-hyung. She was completely weak and refused to eat at all. She even needed help just to walk to the bathroom. Feeling upset her daughter seemed miserable, Hyun Ji-ai's mother kept scolding her to cheer up. She planned to bring her daughter to the hospital, but Hyun Ji-ai kept refusing because she was embarrassed her illness was not only physical, but her spirit was far more exhausted. She was still trying to cover up her fiancé's wrongdoing and couldn't bring herself to tell her parents that the reason Ji-hyung abandoned her was for another woman.
조용하게 놔둬줘.
After carefully considering it with her husband, in the end Hyun Ji-ai's mother finally agreed to meet Ji-hyung peacefully. In order to win over her future son-in-law's heart, she was even willing to apologize to Ji-hyung for her behavior the other day, hoping that he would still go through with the wedding. However, Ji-hyung was extremely stubborn and stood firm in his decision. Instead, he knelt down and begged for the wedding to be called off. He doesn't want to hurt Hyun Ji-ai because if the marriage happens without being based on love, it will make Hyun Ji-ai suffer much more. Because she was furious with Ji-hyung's rejection, Hyun Ji-ai's mother hit him and threatened to drag him so the next morning Ji-hyung would walk with her daughter to the altar. For her, canceling the wedding plans just before the big day will really lower her self-esteem. She carefully considered the options for Ji-hyung and indeed allowed him to divorce Hyun Ji-ai if they had been married for 1 year.
그런다고 누가 그랬어? 너 혼인비자 간음죄야!
Once again, Ji-hyung chose to be punished today rather than commit a greater sin because play around with the bonds of marriage. After learning how stubborn his future son-in-law was, Hyun Ji-ai's father, previously very patient, was furious at Ji-hyung's family. Even though he originally planned to hand over all his shares to be managed by his future son-in-law. However, Ji-hyung has destroyed his own family's future for the sake of his ego and greedy love. Now, Hyun Ji-ai's parents swear to remove Ji-hyung's father from the hospital and ruin his career if their daughter's marriage is truly cancelled. Ji-hyung's decision is final. He was even willing to be cursed and disowned by his family as long as he didn't betray his love for Soo-yeon. This time, his choice wasn't without reason. He didn't want to leave Soo-yeon, who no longer had anyone else in her life. Meanwhile, Hyun Ji-ai, though she's not with him, the girl still has everything. Not wanting her son's recklessness to become a disaster for the family, Ji-hyung's mother searches for the woman her son loves and wants to meet the girl at her office. She asks Soo-yeon to let go of Ji-hyung and persuades her to agree to marry Hyun Ji-ai. Despite her calm demeanor, Ji-hyung's mother still blamed Soo-yeon for being the third person in her son's relationship.
서연 씨 때문인 건 맞고요. 그런데
The girl admitted that she had ended the relationship and felt guilty for dating Ji-hyung, even though she had known for a long time that he was already engaged. Soo-yeon also emphasized that she had absolutely no idea Ji-hyung was canceling the wedding the next day. Realizing how foolish Ji-hyung's actions were, Soo-yeon asked Jaemin to talk some sense into him. She even said that if necessary, he should beat him up hard so that Ji-hyung would come to his senses and agree to get married. However, Jaemin couldn't bring himself to hit him and instead asked Ji-hyung to stay on his parents' side because his future was at stake with that decision. He forbade Ji-hyun from worrying about Soo-yeon's illness, saying that it was his responsibility as her older brother. But once again, Ji-hyung refused to listen to Jaemin's advice.
걔를 그렇게 몰라?
받아주고 안 받아줄까지 생각 안 했어.
Amidst the escalating emotional turmoil within her family, Hyun Ji-ai's condition worsened and she had to be hospitalized. It turned out she was suffering from a gastrointestinal infection caused by exhaustion and stress. As a result of her previous actions, she apparently reduced her food portions to appear slimmer when wearing her wedding dress. The day before, Hyun Ji-ai could only cry over the situation while hugging the beautiful white dress adorned with luxurious stones. Ji-hyung's reckless decision truly Soo-yeon sick. To her, the man was very foolish for being willing to sacrifice his family for her. Even though she loved him very much, Soo-yeon never expected that Ji-hyung would be so cruel to Hyun Ji-ai and act so recklessly. She came alone to Ji-hyung's private apartment and made him realize the reality that it was pointless for Ji-hyung to have a girl with dementia like her. Soo-yeon would eventually forget everything about him, and Ji-hyung would suffer greatly taking care of a woman who acts like an elderly person. Soo-yeon hoped that Ji-hyung would let her go and pursue a path to happiness by being with the woman his parents had chosen for him.
당신 삶까지 망가뜨릴 수 없어.
서연아.
But instead, Ji-hyung scolded her for seeming so hopeless about the illness when he was trying his best to fight for the chance to be with her. Ji-hyung is even ready to die the second to be with Soo-yeon and promises not to let Soo-yeon suffer alone. Unexpectedly, shocking news came from their friends that Ji-hyung had called off the wedding today. Feeling guilty causing the rift between Ji-hyung and Hyun Ji-ai, Soo-yeon, who was near Jae-min, rushed to Ji-hyung's apartment to ensure he goes through with the marriage. However, as soon as she stepped forward, Soo-yeon felt confused, lost her way, because she forgot the address was going to. Luckily, Jae-min immediately caught up and took her home. Meanwhile, Hyun Ji-ai's parents are very disappointed with today's wedding cancellation. They feel overwhelmed by their co-workers who have accepted the invitation and want to attend the party. In fact, so emotional and unwilling to answer calls, Hyun Ji-ai's mother even threw her phone into the toilet and cut every telephone cable in her house. She was furious with Ji-hyung, whom she saw as ungrateful for her husband's kindness. The material loss might not have been much for her, but she couldn't bear the shame in front of her business associates because of Ji-hyung's actions.
날 탄날 놈 아니라는데!
Today, she really gave up and wanted to calm herself for a moment by inviting Hyun Ji-ai to vacation in Europe for a few months. However, Hyun Ji-ai, desperate, didn't respond to her mother's invite. She forced a smile and tried to reassure her parents that she was fine.
오히려 훨씬 나아졌어.
Not much different, Ji-hyung's house was also in a chaotic state. His mother could no longer answer the many questions about why the wedding was not held today. His father was embarrassed facing Hyun Ji-ai's father, who had helped him. The trust that had been built over decades was destroyed in an instant by his son. Although initially boasting about wanting to destroy Ji-hyung's family, in the end Hyun Ji-ai's father kept Ji-hyung's father's position at the hospital and didn't fire him. However, it still desires peace even though its heart is deeply shaken.
시간 끌어봤자야, 어? 알았어.
For days, Ji-hyung's phone couldn't be reached, and his parents didn't know where he was. Ji-hyung's father kept cursing and accusing Soo-yeon of being the cause of all this. He considered Soo-yeon a poor woman who deliberately seduced a rich man to drain his wealth. But that accusation was firmly rejected by Ji-hyun's mother, as she believed it wasn't another woman's fault, but rather her own son Soo was a coward and greedy when it came to women. While smiling bitterly remembering Soo-yeon's embrace last night, Ji-hyung left his apartment and resolved to gather the courage to meet his parents in the evening.
어머니,
Trying to hold back their urge to curse him out, his mother and aunt chose to remain silent upon seeing Ji-hyun's arrival and leaving it to his father alone to pass judgment on their son. Ji-hyung regrets his actions that clearly harmed many parties. All he could do was kneel and offer his sincerest apology to his father. The father didn't say much and immediately wanted to punish after hearing his son ask for his blessing to marry the girl he loves. From that moment on, Ji-hyung's father no longer acknowledged him as his son. The man kicked Ji-hyung out and revoked all his privileges, including his credit cards, apartment, car, and even all the investments in his son's construction company.
각오 없이 네 뜻대로 한다는 것도 아니겠고.
Unable to accept that her only son was being cast out by her husband, the mother kept trying to intervene and chose to forgive him. However, it all felt pointless because the father no longer wanted anything to do with the son who had betrayed his trust. As Hyun Ji-ai's condition begins to improve, it is now her mother's turn to be hospitalized due to the repeated stress she experienced after her daughter's wedding was cancelled. Ji-hyung's mother tries to visit her best friend and former future-in-law. She apologizes sincerely for the incident the other day to ease her feelings. Curious about the public's reaction due to the cancellation of the party, she spread false rumors that her son was impotent and refused to have a partner. Although upset, Hyun Ji-ai's mother tried to believe the reason because it seemed quite logical. She also regretted her emotional outburst the other day and didn't want to act childishly. Even though their children couldn't be together, she didn't want to sever the long-standing bond of friendship they had built.
박 원장 사표 내가 수리하지 말랬다.
Back at his office, Ji-hyung is back his enthusiasm for work and felt better than ever because his heart now is no longer burdened by lies. Even though he had been kicked out, he could still stay at the office and take taxis to get around. On the other hand, Ji-hyung's mother couldn't bear it again. She visited her son during her lunch break. She even gave him the car keys and all her savings to support Ji-hyun's business, which had declined after his father withdrew his investment. Today, Soo-yeon lies again to her boss that she has to go to the dentist. In fact, Soo-yeon should see the doctor who treats her illness. The doctor emphasized to the patient to take the medication regularly, but Soo-yeon never took it until her condition never changed.
약을 드세요.
Moon-kwon worries about his older sister's health. He had prepared porridge and forced Soo-yeon to take the medicine. He received news from the doctor that his older sister's condition wasn't improving because she kept refusing to take her medication. Crying, he kept begging his older sister to take the medicine for the sake of her recovery. However, instead of being willing, Soo-yeon actually shouted at her brother because she felt fine.
아침에 집 오는 길 까먹었다면서.
To minimize negligence like before, Soo-yeon takes a walk, photographing several locations she passes on her way to work. She keeps trying to memorize the names of these places so that it will be easier to find her way home later. To ensure Soo-yeon takes her medicine, Jaemin visits her apartment and invites her walk in the park. The girl joked to her cousin that he should have taken his girlfriend for a walk on Saturday night instead of taking her. Even though it was just a short walk, it successfully made Moon-kwon very worried because his older sister didn't bring her phone. Upon arriving home, Moon-kwon cried and scolded her because worried his older sister would get lost. He kept pleading for Soo-yeon to take the medicine from the doctor, but his stubborn older sister preferred to rely on memos and a daily journal rather than depend on medication.
밥 먹었어?
씻고 먹을게요.
As the two were planning to cook dinner, Aunt happened to drop by and brought a lot of food. And jokingly said that Soo-yeon was forgetful like an elderly person, which made Soo-yeon feel a bit offended, especially since she had forgotten her phone in the fridge. Her visit was also meant to introduce Soo-yeon to the son of one of her friends, who works as a university lecturer. The man, who was mature and successful, was considered a suitable match for her niece. However, Soo-yeon had no interest at all in the matchmaking plan. Instead, she asked Aunt about her mother's condition, whether she was still alive, and if it was possible to find her.
만나볼래?
엄마요.
Meanwhile, Altoag they didn't end up together. Hyang Ji-ai still shows care for Ji-hyung. In his apartment, she sends her homemade cake to Ji-hyung. Wanting to say hello, Ji-hyung invites Hyang Ji-ai to dinner. Although the girl is spoiled and childish, she has stable emotional control and does not explode like her mother. What Ji-hyung did to her was truly cruel, yet Hyang Ji-ai could still sit and smile together while wanting to know how the girl Ji-hyung loved was doing. She wondered how beautiful the girl was to make her feel envious. Hyang Ji-ai realized at once that Ji-hyung must have loved the girl not because of her beauty or position. She also mentioned that her parents were in Singapore for several days on a vacation combined with a business trip. The next day, Ji-hyung went to see Soo-yeon after getting off work. He truly missed her and wanted to rekindle their love story like before. However, Soo-yeon firmly refused and didn't want to burden Ji-hyung with her suffering. The girl explained that if they got back together under these circumstances, it would be very troublesome later on. All this time, Soo-yeon has always placed a paper containing her identity, her workplace, and even Moon-kwon and Jae-min's phone numbers as a precaution in case she gets lost while walking alone. Regardless of that, Ji-hyung pleads to be able to accompany and take care of her until the end of her life. Firmly, Ji-hyung wants to marry Soo-yeon as soon as possible, even if the whole world opposes it. Unable to give any answer, Soo-yeon left Ji-hyung and asked Moon-kwon to pick him up. While at home, Soo-yeon vented her anxiety by drinking wine. Even though Moon-kwon cried and tried to stop her, Soo-yeon wouldn't listen and continued drinking. All she wanted was to leave this world sooner so that she wouldn't have to endure the pain for too long.
아씨, 누나 술 먹으면 안 된단 말이야!
당장
On his day off, Jae-min took Soo-yeon for a walk in the park near the river. Soo-yeon shared that Ji-hyung wanted to marry her soon and asked her cousin for his opinion on whether she will agree to it. Without offering any comment, Jae-min left the decision to Soo-yeon and wished for her happiness. He also asked the girl to be willing to undergo intensive treatment and therapy for the sake of her future.
그렇게 매도할 건 아니야.
Both of them took the time to stop by Myung-hee's bakery and greet her sister. Upon arrival, there was a bit of commotion when Myung-hee and her mother insisted that their uncle go to the hospital, as there was a rather large lump on his leg that made it difficult for him to walk. All this time, the uncle had been so quiet, enduring his pain without seeking treatment. Meanwhile, Ji-hyung returned home briefly just to pack the clothes he had left behind. Even though his father didn't to say hello, his mother invited him to eat. This visit was also his chance to ask for his mother's blessing to marry Soo-yeon. But his request was met with strong opposition from his mother. She didn't forbid her son from getting married, but she didn't expect it so soon after Ji-hyung caused problems with Hyung Ji-ai's family. His mother still allowed them to get married, but in 1 or 2 years when the news of this cancelled wedding has died down. However, Ji Hyung wasn't willing to wait that long and argued that he didn't have much time.
나중에 말씀드릴게요.
Unable to tolerate her son's behavior, Ji Hyun's mother then went to see Soo-yeon at a restaurant. She thought her son had gotten Soo-yeon pregnant and wanted to take responsibility. However, Soo-yeon denied it as she was not pregnant. She concluded that Ji Hyung was looking for an excuse to get her blessing. Ji Hyung's mother kept pressing her, asking what the real reason was behind her son's rush to marry Soo-yeon. While pouring tea with trembling hands, the girl finally admitted that she was suffering from dementia.
저 알츠하이머 환자예요.
In front of Ji Hyung's mother, Soo-yeon emphasized that she had never told anyone about her illness. However, Ji Hyung and her cousin found out about it after meeting with Dr. Kim. Initially, Ji Hyung wanted to marry Hyang Ji-ai, but after learning that Soo-yeon was ill, he changed his mind and called off the wedding. Like being struck by lightning, Ji Hyun's mother was completely shocked to find out that her son did all of this because he wanted to take care of Soo-yeon. She withdrew her initial approval and refused to give her blessing because she didn't want her son to suffer by living alongside a young woman with dementia like Soo-yeon. On the other hand, she felt both pity and admiration for Soo-yeon, who remained strong despite facing relentless hardships in life. According to information from Mr. Sun, who happens to be Ji Hyung's close friend, her son had already reserved a house to live in after marrying Soo-yeon. Without a doubt, Ji Hyun has announced to his friends that he will soon marry a girl, but the girl is not Hyang Ji-ai. Her son's behavior was completely unexpected. Even Ji Hyung was willing to give up all the facilities from his family just to be with a sickly orphaned girl.
알츠하이머 치매라면서.
Hearing the news that Hyang Ji-ai's parents returned from Singapore, Ji Hyung's mother takes the time to greet her friend. At home, Mrs. Hyang Ji-ai wants her daughter happy because she only stays in her room, so a blankets. She wants her daughter cheerful again by sending her to go abroad, but Hyang Ji-ai never agrees because she couldn't see Ji Hyung anymore.
구경 못하고 천으로 늙어주게 생겼어?
그런 거 아니라니까, 엄마.
While giving a luxury bag to her friend, Mrs. Hyang Ji-ai wonders why Ji Hyung canceled his wedding. Ji Hyung's mother suddenly turned pale as Hyang Ji-ai's mother accused her son of having an affair with another woman. Not only did his mother suspect this, Hyang Ji-ai's father also suspected the same thing. Visiting his house, Hyang Ji-ai's father said Ji Hyung had another woman, which led to him abandoning his daughter. If that really happens, then he will never forgive Ji Hyung's family and that young man. At her office, Soo-yeon was able to work well while keeping track of all her activities, but she ran into trouble when her coworkers caught her brushing her teeth more than 7 times during the workday. She felt a bit offended when her boss brought up her father, who had dementias, and before he passed away, his father takes 12 baths a day. However, he claims he hasn't taken a bath yet. Meanwhile, Ji Hyung became more resolute in his decision and pleaded with Jaemin to give his blessing for the marriage. He wanted Jaemin to entrust him with the responsibility of taking care of Soo-yeon and promised to be a good husband who would love his wife until the end of her life. Even though Jaemin yelled at him and kept speaking harshly, however, he couldn't shake Ji Hyung's resolve. After work, Soo-yeon wanted to treat her cousin to dinner at a Japanese-themed restaurant. She poured out all her frustrations from the day to Jaemin, telling her about Ji Hyung's mother who had come to see her and had found out about her illness. She also promised that she would start taking her medication as her carelessness today had almost been noticed by her friends. After returning from the restaurant, Jaemin heard a dispute between Myung-hae and his mother. His older sister constantly complains to her mother for paying too much attention to Soo-yeon. Their aunt was accused of spending her money to buy Soo-yeon a new blanket and a shirt for Moon-kwan. She said their mother had already done more than enough by taking care of Soo-yeon and sending her to school until she was 20 years old. The conflict within his family made Jaemin realize that there really was no one he could rely on to take care of Soo-yeon if her condition were to worsen. His heart began to open up a little, and he recalled Ji-hyung's request for his blessing to marry his cousin. Meanwhile at home, Soo-yeon gets angry and argues with her younger sibling over small things. She thinks Moon-kwon sees her as weak since her dementia diagnosis, even though her younger brother was only worried about her condition and always reminded him to take his medicine. Because forgets, she nearly discarded fresh food Auntie just delivered. Meanwhile, Ji-hyung's mother could only cry in her room. She couldn't sleep because she kept thinking about her son. Even though she kept pleading, Ji-hyung no longer listened to her, offering a slew of reasons just to be able to marry Soo-yeon. Her stubborn son even went so far as to kneel down, begging his mother to let him live with the woman he loved. As a mother, she truly couldn't bear to imagine her beloved son having to spend deep time in sadness. In front of her husband, she was willing to argue to defend Ji-hyung. Now she truly felt like no longer recognized her son and had lost him.
엄마 그러려고 할 수가 없어. 미안해, 아가.
Elsewhere, after paying a visit to her husband, Demi, to satisfy Soo-yeon's very persistent curiosity who kept asking about her mother, and secretly visited a tteokbokki shop in the city, and her presence surprised the shop owner. All this time, Aunt knew that Soo-yeon's and Moon-kwon's mother was still alive, but the woman left her children to pursue another man. Even after decades have passed, he has no desire to visit Aunt's house just to find out how her children are doing. That's the reason why Aunt has always told Soo-yeon that she is an orphan. It's true that her mother is still alive in this world, but her conscience is dead. In front of Auntie without any shame, the woman said that she didn't need her 2 children and only needed a man because she couldn't live without a partner. To her, children were a burden that held back her youth. This meeting made Bibi regretful, especially when she saw the woman drinking alcohol nonstop and admitting to being depressed after her lover left. Meanwhile, despite continuing to refuse, Soo-yeon is forced to join the party with the other employees due to pressure from some of her colleagues. However, before the event began, she wanted to leave early because she had to keep an appointment. The falling snow and the cool breeze brought back memories of her love story with Ji-hyung. Back then, when she was cold, the man would hold her tightly and warm her up. The appointment with Ji-hyung has to be postponed to tomorrow as Soo-yeon must meet her mother at some place. The good news from Aunt made her curious and want to see what the woman who gave birth to her and abandoned her since childhood looks like. During the journey, Soo-yeon was confident and normal, but as the car traveled further and the busy road conditions made her head suddenly feel dizzy. She almost lost consciousness and had an accident as her car stopped abruptly. Not knowing where to go, Soo-yeon could cry her heart out. She was completely confused and didn't know how to get home. As her condition worsened, all that came to her mind was Ji-hyung's name. In a panic while shedding tears, Soo-yeon called Ji-hyung to pick her up immediately. The man came at the right time because Soo-yeon didn't think at all to contact Jaemin or Moon-kwon. Her mind was completely blank, like being lost in a vast, empty desert. Upon arriving at the residential apartment complex, Ji-hyung desperately pleaded with Soo-yeon once more to agree to be his wife, as Ji-hyung was the only person she could truly rely on when she felt distant from everyone else. Feeling dependent and not wanting to deny her feelings, Soo-yeon hugged Ji-hyung tightly, saying that she was willing to live a happy life with Ji-hyung. Soo-yeon promised to undergo intensive treatment in order to spend the rest of her life who not much longer. Ji-hyung doesn't care if others think E's trapped in hell as he's willing to accompany a woman with a rare disease like Soo-yeon. He also doesn't care if his parents oppose it, Ji-hyun will still marry. The next day, Ji-hyung visits his parents' house. At that time, his father is on a picnic with Hyun Ji-ai's family. His mother refuses to join as she's not feeling well from frustration over her son's action. Even though Hyun Ji-ai's mother kept forcing, she still refused because she didn't want to depend too much on Hyun Ji-ai's parents. She suspected that Ji-hyung's parents were arguing because of their son's behavior. At the same time, Hyun Ji-ai chose to play with her puzzle to ward off loneliness because didn't want to go to places reminding her of Ji-hyung. The next day, Soo-yeon was so very happy to tell her younger brother that she was going to marry Jaemin's friend. Worried that her younger brother might oppose, Soo-yeon tried to assure Moon-kwon that Ji-hyung and Hi Mother were already aware of her illness. At Vivia's house, an uncle's birthday celebration is being held.
누나 축하해. 축하해요.
Myung-hee and her family are preparing a surprise and special dishes to eat together. Soo-yeon and Moon-kwon are also present to liven up the atmosphere. Not to forget, she also prepared a gift for her uncle. With tears of joy streaming down his face, Jaemin beamed at Soo-yeon's happiness. So far, it was Ji-hyung who made him willing to undergo further medical examination.
난 이제부터 전사가 돼야 해. 전사가 될 거야.
At a coffee shop, Soo-yeon invites her cousin to meet Ji-hyung and ask for his blessing. Jaemin hugs Ji-hyung as a congratulation for their wedding plans. However, their hug is misunderstood by the socialite mothers who are watching them from another table. They thought Jaemin and Ji-hyung were into the same sex. Soo-yeon, who saw this, laughed so hard the coffee almost spilled out. After telling Jaemin about their happiness, So-yeon and Ji-hyun planned to visit their aunt's house and ask for her blessing. However, before they got there, Jaemin had already told them. Overwhelmed with both joy and surprise upon hearing the news, Auntie couldn't hold back her tears and kept crying in front of the whole family.
그저 푹널찍하고 편안한 사람 만나서.
Unlike her mother, Myung-hee seemed very upset about Soo-yeon and Ji-hyung's presence. Without any clear reason, she insulted Ji-hyung, calling him a fraud to marry a poor orphaned woman. Instead of offering congratulations, she sparked a confrontation that led her mother to hit her in front of everyone. She simply couldn't accept that her cousin was getting a wealthy and better husband than her own. Although she was a bit disappointed to learn that Ji-hyung's parents didn't give their blessing for the wedding the next day, and still felt proud that her niece was being proposed to by an exceptional man like Ji-hyung. He kept praising and admiration for Soo-yeon, particularly after he had heard that her fiancé had prepared a very luxurious and incredibly spacious residence for them to live in. However, this made Myung-hee feel even more furious. Before Moon-kwon arrived at the apartment, Ji-hyung and Soo-yeon were busy in the small kitchen of their apartment. Working so well together, they were preparing to serve dinner. Even though it was carefully noted down, Soo-yeon still completely forgot where she placed the coffee, sugar, and green tea to be served. Her carelessness accidentally caused her to spill a glass of hot water until scalding her hand. In a panic, Ji-hyung quickly applied ice to Soo-yeon's hand and intended to take her to the hospital.
병 가자.
However, Soo-yeon just laughed seeing how worried her boyfriend was just because she had a small injury. Soo-yeon felt slightly touched by Ji-hyun's concern, who wanted to kiss her lips tenderly. At this point, the two of them have entered a new chapter in their relationship toward a more serious commitment. Even without the blessing of his parents, Ji-hyung no longer sees any obstacles in the way of his happy day tomorrow. While enjoying a delicious dinner with her brother and her fiancé, Soo-yeon announced that they would soon have to move to their new, larger home. Although initially he refused as he didn't want to disturb the happiness of the newlyweds, eventually Moon-kwon agreed to move with his older sister. Moreover, he had to remind her whenever his older sister forgot, especially when it was time for her to take her medication.
나 안 아프면 나도 너 수축맞게 안 데려가.
This time, in front of her fiancé, Soo-yeon is enthusiastic to take the medicine that makes her younger brother so confident that his older sister will return to her former self. At Ji-hyung's parents' house, Hyang Ji-ai, who didn't join the picnic, came to visit while bringing her homemade soup. While both her parents and Ji-hyung's father were indeed enjoying a picnic and discussing business, Hyang Ji-ai felt quite lonely in such a big house, and wanted to go visit the woman who almost became her mother-in-law. Hyang Ji-ai's considerate behavior made her aunt feel concerned because her nephew had neglected such a good girl like her. Even though the two have separated, it seems that Hyang Ji-ai still hopes there are remnants of love for her. To dispel that sad hope, Ji-hyun's mother took her for a bit of a leisurely stroll in the park and asked Hyang Ji-ai to forget her son for her own good. She needed to rise from his despair because she still had a long future ahead and had to find a life partner other than her son. With a heavy heart, she informed her that Ji-hyung would soon be getting married to the woman of his choice, even though she herself didn't approve of it. Meanwhile, the aunt's family, who were happily enjoying birthday cake, were suddenly thrown into chaos by the arrival of Myung-hee's husband, who was tantrum and a half-conscious because of drinking too much. He threw all the buckets in every direction while shouting and cursing at his mother-in-law. He couldn't accept that his wife was being insulted by his own mother in front of everyone, even in front of her future brother-in-laws. He dragged his wife to quickly pack their things and move out of that house. Not wanting her husband to go too far, Myung-hee pulled Dong Cheol away and even hit him on the head. Instead of coming to his senses, the man became even more delirious, going so far as to claim that his own parents were far wealthier than his in-laws. Embarrassed by the argument between his wife and son-in-law, Uncle had to step in and shout to break it up.
눈물도 없습니다.
그만 안 할래? 그만 안 해?
The next morning, as if nothing had ever happened, Myung-hee and Auntie seemed perfectly fine and came to visit the new home of the soon-to-be-married couple. Both of them even brought a variety of ingredients and cooking equipment. They arrived while Soo-yeon was still at the office because they intended to help organize their belongings. They had a brief argument when Auntie insisted on bringing some old plates that Myung-hee thought were unfit to be displayed in such a luxurious house. At the publishing office, Soo-yeon was so happy chatting with her lover on the phone that she accidentally blurted out that she was suffering from dementia, which caused all her colleagues' eyes to turn towards her. To dispel suspicion, Soo-yeon corrected it and emphasized that it was just a joke. During a work break, Soo-yeon, who was careless, made another mistake in the restroom. Soo-yeon forgot to flush the toilet after defecating, which made the next toilet user angry. Instead of admitting, Soo-yeon turned angry and denied that she wasn't the previous user of the toilet. What she considered minor carelessness often made others feel uncomfortable. For the preparation of her wedding tomorrow, Soo-yeon was allowed to go home earlier than usual. She turned down several tempting offers in order to fully focus on welcoming her special day. Because her marriage had been announced, her boss gave Soo-yeon a gift of cash before she went home to her new house. While Soo-yeon and Ji-hyung were at the office, Myung-hee and Moon-kwon had prepared to clean the house as neatly as possible before it was occupied by the homeowner. Not forgetting, Auntie left various special dishes that she kept in the refrigerator for her beloved nephew. On the way to her home, she became anxious because she forgot the password to open the door. However, Ji-hyung tried to calm her down and told her to write down the password for her house door. Meanwhile, at Ji-hyung's house, curses after curses are uttered from his father's mouth after returning from the picnic. Director Park was so shocked to hear the news from his wife that the next day his son would be getting married to a sick girl. He blamed his wife for spoiling him all this time, to the point that he dared to go against his parents. However, his wife couldn't do anything to stop Ji-hyung. She could only beg her husband to accept their son's decision and let him be happy with the girl he chose. Although initially emotional, in the end Ji-hyung's father was willing to calm down and explain everything to Hyang Ji-ai's family. Both of them agreed to offer their deepest apologies and prepare to accept all the consequences. The tension on Director Park's face was clearly evident when facing Hyang Ji-ai's parents. As soon as she heard that Ji-hyung left her beloved daughter for an orphan girl, curses, insults, and scorn flowed endlessly from Hyang Ji-ai's mother's mouth. It was truly beyond her comprehension that her daughter's fiancé had been taken away by a senile girl from a lower-class background. She became even more outraged when he heard that Ji-hyung was going to get married the next day, even without his parents' blessing. Still continuing to shout, Mother Hyang Ji-ai truly decided to end the friendship with Ji-hyung's parents. She demanded that her husband immediately fire Ji-hyung's father from his position as the hospital's chief director.
사실은 병원이 박원 잡거나 그러지 않겠어요? 더 이상은 못 참아요.
Even though his wife was so outspoken, Hyang Ji-ai's father still tried to face her with a cool head. He also didn't expect that Ji-hyung was actually hiding another woman, even though he was already engaged to his daughter. In her room, Hyang Ji-ai, who had just heard her mother's anger, could only cry and pity how unfortunate Ji-hyung and the woman he loves are. Although at first she felt jealous of that woman, now she understood why Ji-hyung chose her. In her heart, there wasn't even the slightest trace of hatred or curse toward that woman. Hyang Ji-ai is truly a resilient woman, even though her love story is not fortunate. Even though the guilt was so deep and unforgivable by Hyang Ji-ai's family, at least Ji-hyung's parents felt a little relieved because they had lessened the burden on their hearts after expressing that bitter truth. Unlike their family, which is going through a tremendous upheaval, Ji-hyung and Soo-yeon are experiencing the happiest time they approach their wedding day. Because tonight is the first night for both of them to occupy a new house as prospective bride and groom. Both of them promise to complete each other. When Soo-yeon often forgets, Ji-hyung will always be there as her reminder alarm. While bringing a few gifts for the engaged couple, after work, Ji-hyung came to visit and greeted her cousin, who was arranging things in her new home. Remembering the rocky road the two of them have been through and the suffering Soo-yeon has faced, Jaemin hopes that his cousin can truly find happiness through marriage. In the grand of a luxurious hotel ballroom, Ji-hyung, a fitting black suit that held the delicate hand of Soo-yeon, who was elegantly dressed in a stunning and beautiful all-white gown that was intricately adorned with sparkling crystals. Currently, the two of them have officially held the new title of husband and wife. Wearing a pink habak in the audience, Ant watched this joyful moment through a stream of tears. The newlyweds looked so happy enjoying their wedding leave by honeymooning on Jeju Island. Throughout the trip, Ji-hyung kept gazing intently at his wife's face, which looked unwell during the journey. Seeing his wife looking so exhausted and unenthusiastic left Ji-hyung puzzled. From the time got on the plane until at the hotel, Soo-yeon was always sleeping and feeling cold, even though it was a very sunny day. To create a romantic impression after officially becoming husband and wife, Ji-hyung gave a surprise his wife with a beautiful white dress for her to wear during their dinner together. However, during that romantic moment, Soo-yeon kept vomiting in the bathroom. The next day, not long after the two shared a romantic moment wearing the same outfits while playing on the beach, Soo-yeon once again felt nauseous and rushed to the bathroom. As a result, she didn't want to touch the food served, causing her body to become increasingly weak. Worried about his wife's health, Ji-hyung raised his voice and insisted that Soo-yeon go to the hospital. She, being stubborn, kept arguing with her husband because she felt she was fine and thought that her headache was just due to taking too many depression and dementia medications. But it turned out she guessed was wrong. The doctor who examined her condition revealed that Soo-yeon was 8 weeks pregnant.
마지막 생일이 언제셨습니까?
Soo-yeon, still in disbelief, kept denying it and returned to the hotel with a troubled heart. Before going to bed, Soo-yeon told Ji-hyung about the pregnancy, and with a heavy heart, she confessed that she wanted to abort before things dragged on and made her life even more difficult. Soo-yeon didn't want to burden Ji-hyung, who was already overwhelmed taking care of her and now would also have to care for a baby. Soo-yeon was worried that if her illness relapsed, she might throw the baby or drown it in the bathtub, considering how her carelessness had already caused trouble multiple times, even nearly setting the kitchen on fire because she forgot to turn off the stove. To be honest, as a husband, Ji-hyung was overjoyed to hear the news that he was going to be a father. However, he still left the decision to his wife, because she was the one who truly understood what her body was going through during pregnancy while undergoing treatment.
미안해.
Because of the pain she was experiencing, Soo-yeon could no longer fully enjoy her honeymoon. As per Soo-yeon's wish, the two of them rushed back to Seoul to have her health checked by Dr. Kim. But before that, they first visited an obstetrician to make sure of the baby's condition. As a woman, Soo-yeon was deeply moved when the doctor told her that the baby in her womb was very healthy and that a heartbeat could be heard. Her decision yesterday to terminate the pregnancy suddenly changed, and she now wanted to keep her future child.
나는 네 분신을 포기하기가 쉽지 않아.
Very different from Ji-hyung, who changed his mind after hearing Dr. Kim's explanation that Soo-yeon's pregnancy would be very risky if she continued dementia treatment, because it could interfere with the baby's development, and there were concerns that the baby might suffer abnormalities due to the medication, which is classified as a strong drug. Ji-hyung, who was so enthusiastic the night before, firmly refuses the baby's presence in order to keep Soo-yeon alive longer and willing to take her medicine. However, the stubborn Soo-yeon indeed opposed him, believing that the medication had no effect whatsoever on her memory development, so it was fine for her to stop taking it for the sake of the baby.
심장이 뛰고 있는데, 살아있는데.
From their time at the hospital until they returned to their apartment, the two continued to argue, each firmly holding onto their own stance. Meanwhile, at Ji-hyung's family home, Hyun-ji's father and mother took turns coming to apologize for their emotions yesterday, as wanting to end the friendship that had been established for 40 years. Ji-hyung's father deeply regrets his wife's reckless behavior when she's emotional and doesn't consider the consequences first. As the owner of the hospital, Hyun-ji's father doesn't want Director Park to resign as chief director because, until now, no one has been more professional than Ji-hyung's father. Even though the whole family has already apologized, Mother Ji-hyung's heart is already hurt by Mother Hyun-ji's behavior, who insulted her the other day. Not much different, Hyun-ji came to visit Ji-hyung's mother before her family arrived. She now admitted that she had let go of Ji-hyung and hoped that the newlyweds would be happy. In fact, Hyun-ji really wants to get to know Ji-hyung's wife as a friend. Upon learning that her son had just returned to Seoul after his honeymoon, Ji-hyung's mother went to visit his new home. She even brought some gifts for them. The woman hadn't yet allowed her daughter-in-law to visit her home because her husband didn't want that. That night, Soo-yeon was once again overcome with sadness as she insisted on keeping her baby. She shouted loudly and refused to take her medication. In response to his wife's behavior, Ji-hyung hugged her tightly and tried to calm her down. Fighting with partner is a normal part of married life. Even though they seemed to have a heated argument the night before, the next morning they could still smile at each other and face the day together filled with happiness. Both have agreed to care for the fetus in So-yeon's womb and prepare everything from now on. They bought various books on pregnancy education and parenting during their days off and shopping trips. While they were still on their honeymoon leave, Ji-hyung looked genuinely happy to help his wife to do homework, from washing dishes and mopping the floor to hanging the laundry. All done together while looking at each other with great affection. Looking at his beautiful wife's face while she slept became one of Ji-hyung's sources of encouragement in life. Since she stopped taking medication the sake of her baby, Soo-yeon has felt overprotective than usual. On the weekend, before returning to work, Ji-hyung and Soo-yeon spent time walking and shopping for essentials. Because she no longer relies on medication, Soo-yeon tries to minimize the risk of disease by eating healthy foods with ingredients that prevent dementia. In the middle of a conversation, Soo-yeon asked her husband about Hyun Ji-ai's condition. All this time, Ji-hyung had no idea how the girl was because he didn't want to make his wife jealous. But on the other hand, he honestly admitted that he did want to know whether the girl was doing okay after he married someone else. In Ji-hyung's eyes, Hyun Ji-ai was a kind girl with no flaws or malice in her heart. She even let go and wished happiness for the man who betrayed her. For a moment, Soo-yeon felt selfish towards Hyun Ji-ai. Even though it wasn't right at first, that misfortune ended up paving the way for her to fully win Ji-hyung's heart.
진심으로 미안해한다고.
When gathered at the dining table, Soo-yeon eats as her husband suggests. If the food was healthy and good for the baby's development, she forced herself to eat it even if it made her feel nauseous. Her happiness was completed because the two men she cherished, her younger brother and her husband, were always ready to protect and accompany Soo-yeon.
나 물렸어.
그래도 먹어야 해요.
Meanwhile, at Ji-hyung's house, his parents were having a disagreement because the father forbade the mother from being too attentive to Ji-hyung and his wife, especially when it came to sending them food. He believed that his wife's constant defense and pampering of Ji-hyung was the reason their son had the courage to defy him. Unwilling to accept such accusations, Ji-hyung's mother snapped back, sarcastically pointing out how her husband had become increasingly short-tempered.
백번 죽었다 깨어나도 나는 자식 의절은 못해.
On the other hand, Hyun Ji-ai began to open her heart to rise from sadness. At that time, she prepared to leave for America for some time. Before leaving, Hyun Ji-ai made sure to inform Ji-hyun's mother to say goodbye. Even though she wasn't her biological mother, Hyun Ji-ai deeply admired Ji-hyung's mother for her gentle heart. While Hyun Ji-ai was planning to go abroad, her older brother, Yong-soo, who had been living overseas, returned home to visit the family. Rather than happy his son's presence, Hyun Ji-ai's father was cold and not greeting Yong-soo. He was disappointed in his son for not showing up, even just to offer comfort when his sister's wedding was called off. In his father's eyes, Yong-soo was seen as someone who liked to waste money, just like his mother.
내일부터 향기가 없잖아.
Even at the dining table, the son angered his father by bringing up Ji-hyung as he canceled marrying his sister and chose a girl with dementia. Although Hyun Ji-ai's father appeared very strict, he suddenly became sorrowful and couldn't hold back his tears, including when his beloved daughter left for abroad for quite a long time. Because she thought he was laughing, Soo-yeon scolded Moon-kwon firmly. It was a misunderstanding. Since stopping her medication, Soo-yeon seems more emotional and forgetful than before. Not only Moon-kwon, her husband also got scolded when he defended his sister-in-law. She accused Ji-hyung of insulting her as following her to the hot spring. Even though she refused to be accompanied from the start, Ji-hyung still made sure to escort his wife until arrived safely at destination. Soo-yeon interprets the concern as an insult to people with dementia.
재밌어? 즐거워?
나 왜 이래 정말.
Soo-yeon's illness continues to eat away at her, but her stubbornness continues to deny it. While at the office, Soo-yeon often loses focus when someone calls her because her hearing is starting to deteriorate. Today, she made a fairly serious mistake while organizing the autobiography documents of an author set to be published. Even though her mistake was quite costly, her supervisor tried to be understanding and asked her to do better. Previously, in the past, he was never like that, and Soo-yeon's performance was always consistently reliable. His co-workers secretly began to observe and talk about his increasingly strange behavior since getting married. They were truly puzzled as to why Soo-yeon, who used to be so meticulous, had suddenly become forgetful and extremely careless. This morning, in addition to sending the wrong documents, Soo-yeon also forgot to wear shoes when she was about to enter the toilet. Realizing that her condition would only become more disruptive, Soo-yeon decided to resign from her job. She was finally able to tell her boss the truth that she had been suffering from dementia and could no longer stay at the company to prevent any unwanted incidents.
더 이상은 민폐가 될 것 같아서.
건강이라니.
While her younger brother and husband were at home, Soo-yeon wanted to capture their time together by taking turns photographing the three of them. He also printed many photos. This is indeed to anticipate if Soo-yeon eventually forgets her own family.
갑자기 웬 사진?
나 망가지기 전에.
Phoebe doesn't dare leave Soo-yeon alone and doesn't trust a nurse to take care of her niece. She even constantly accompanied and helps Soo-yeon to finish the housework while Ji-hyung is working. Since getting accepted at a prestigious company, her younger brother hasn't been able to come home early and often works overtime until late at night. Today, she was busy preparing to welcome her coworkers who were coming over for a visit. After work, Jaemin also joined in the fun while bringing sushi and red wine. Her three single co-workers were completely captivated by Jaemin's calm and charismatic presence. They openly competed to get Jaemin's attention. Unlike her co-workers who were excitedly sharing updates with one another, Soo-yeon appeared gloomy and distracted throughout the event. A short message from Hyang Ji-ai sent to her husband's number made him overthink, making him accuse Ji-hyung of still being in contact with his ex. Even though she had been holding onto her disappointment for a long time, Ji-hyung's mother was now willing to forgive, and they were finally able to chat again while enjoying dinner at a restaurant. After hearing the news that Ji-hyung was going to be a father, Mr. Park finally agreed to welcome his son back home along with his wife. Although it was quite difficult to start the conversation at first, however, he now was determined to accept his daughter-in-law and offer support for her treatment if needed. He was very familiar with Dr. Kim, who was treating Soo-yeon and had already discussed his daughter-in-law's illness with him. Mr. Park also offered assistance in case Ji-hyung's company needed investment funds. The meeting with his father made Ji-hyung feel greatly relieved to face the days ahead. Now the burdens in his life were slowly fading, knowing that his father had given his blessing. The next morning, to fulfill Soo-yeon's request, Auntie took her to see her mother. Even though hated her, she still brought the two together, because her niece was so sad when she said this was her final request. Although at first Soo-yeon's mother seemed cold seeing her daughter who had grown up, she ultimately couldn't hold back her tears upon learning that Soo-yeon had a family and her little brother was already working at a company. The two children she neglected are now living well without her touch. In front of Soo-yeon, the woman could only sob uncontrollably. That night, Soo-yeon asked Ahn to go home immediately because she didn't want to bother her. Even though Jae-min refuses to take her home before Ji-hyung returns, however, Soo-yeon persists. She felt fine being alone, but unexpectedly, Soo-yeon, who had a dizzy spell, suddenly slipped in the bathroom and hit her head on the floor until suffering a serious injury. Panicked as his wife had to have surgery, Ji-hyung was upset with Jae-min for leaving Soo-yeon alone. In front of his wife, he always appeared strong, even though deep down he was very fragile. When his wife was asleep, Ji-hyung could only cry as hard as he could in the dark room. He couldn't bear to imagine what it would be like if Soo-yeon's illness got worse. Several months passed. Not long after welcoming Hyang Ji back from America, her mother immediately asked her to go on another blind date with the son of one of her father's business associates. Without refusal, Hyang Ji agreed to meet, but while sitting, Hyang Ji showed no interest in the man. Previously, when she was in America, she had gotten to know Yong-soo's friend, but finally over time she began to distance. Although her physical condition appeared healthy, however, her mood swings became quite extreme. As a good husband, Ji-hyung was always ready to listen to her complaints whenever she felt unwell. All this time, he had been the one taking care of the household chores while Soo-yeon rested. 10 days before the expected due date was Ye's birthday. Unexpectedly, 2 of Soo-yeon's friends came to visit their home to wish her a happy birthday and gave her a gift, a newly published book from their company. In the middle of their lively conversation, Soo-yeon suddenly acted impulsively and blurted out harsh words in front of her friends. She was strongly opposed if indeed one of her friends got into a relationship with Jae-min because that friend had a truly bad and hypocritical character. Soo-yeon felt hurt if her friend came not sincerely to see her, but rather to seek sympathy to get closer to her cousin. Not accepting Soo-yeon's words, her coworker turned around and insulted her illness and then left in an emotional state. Because of his wife's actions, which were considered impolite and somewhat disrespectful towards the guest, leaving Ji-hyung feeling embarrassed, he sincerely and earnestly apologized to Soo-yeon's friend. He pleaded with them to understand and comprehend with his wife's illness. In front of her entire family, Soo-yeon kept crying while saying touching words that today might be the last birthday she could celebrate together with them. Today, Soo-yeon can still remember the names of her family, but she doesn't know if tomorrow and the next birthday celebration she will live normally or she will have lost the memory of this beautiful togetherness. Soo-yeon continued to thank everyone who attended and deeply apologized for what she had done all this time. Soo-yeon just wants to carve out as many memories as possible, even though in the end she will lose those memories. Unable to bear any longer, Aunt cried her heart out and asked Soo-yeon to stop talking. She didn't want her niece to lose hope because of the illness that was eating away at her. As everyone prepared for the cake cutting ceremony, Soo-yeon suddenly felt her stomach contract. The celebration event suddenly stops and they have to prepare to take Soo-yeon to the hospital. Accompanied by her aunt and husband, Soo-yeon shed tears as she lay weakly on the bed, preparing to risk life to give birth to her baby. Due to exhaustion during childbirth, Soo-yeon had surgery and gave birth to a beautiful baby named Yoon. After the baby was born, Soo-yeon really lost herself due to postpartum depression. She had become a mother, but never touched her baby and only stared at her with a blank gaze every day.
아이를 바라보는 눈빛 사이사이 무심을 읽으며
Soo-yeon is now nothing more than a living doll who can only blink and act according to what others direct. When her baby cries, Soo-yeon doesn't know what to do, so she panics and calls the people around her.
예은이 왜 울어?
몰라.
Soo-yeon refuses to carry it as she's worried about dropping it. From the beginning, Soo-yeon wanted her child to be raised by her mother-in-law, but as a father, Ji-hyung did not allow it and wanted to take care of his child himself after work. Today, Soo-yeon remembers her husband and aunt, but she's forgetting her daily activities, which is concerning. At Soo-yeon's request, Ji-hyung asked Hyang Ji to visit his house and meet his wife. While she remembers, Soo-yeon wants to apologize to her husband's ex-fiancé and begs that when she is gone, Soo-yeon wants Hyang Ji to be Ji-hyung's life partner. Soo-yeon realized how shameless the request was until her head suddenly hurt and she screamed as loud as she could.
나 어떡해.
Although her heart was wounded, however, the wound had long been erased. Now in front of the woman who had stolen her fiancé, Hyang Ji-ai could only cry because she couldn't bear to see Ji-hyung suffering in order to care for a woman with dementia. There is not a trace of resentment in her heart. In fact, she deeply cares for Yoon, and hugged the little baby when she is left at Ji-hyung's parents' house. When Ji-hyun led Hyang Ji-ai, Moon-kwan found his older sister soaking in the bathtub with the faucet running and still fully dressed. Her body was still soaking wet and she had fallen asleep, just like that on the bed, which was covered in scattered clothes. Seeing that the windows of her house are covered with iron bars, Soo-yeon becomes angry at her husband for blocking access to the balcony until making her feel like in prison. Ji-hyung just wanted to prevent Soo-yeon from jumping from a height. Even though his wife's actions are increasingly unreasonable, Ji-hyun remains patient and hugs her tightly when she goes berserk. He tried to calm her down with words of love that were even more heartfelt than usual. While Ji-hyung is working, Aunt takes great care of Soo-yeon and her daughter. Today, she left Yoon at her grandmother's house and took Soo-yeon to shop for vegetables. However, Soo-yeon suddenly disappears until her family is busy looking for her. Myung-hee saw him boarding a bus. Soo-yeon gets angry when she sees Myung-hee and calls her a bad woman. Myung-hee could only cry and could no longer even apologize to Soo-yeon. Even when slapped, Myung-hee couldn't say anything. To comfort his wife, Ji-hyung took her for a walk through places filled with memories from when they were dating. However, his wife couldn't remember any of it and simply smiled while kissing her husband throughout the walk. Finding her daughter carrying Yoon, Hyun Ji-ai's mother was furious and kept cursing Ji-hyung nonstop. They have made peace, but she doesn't want her daughter to act foolishly. Hyun Ji-ai tries to calm her mother and clarifies that she now has a boyfriend and no longer hopes for Ji-hyung's love. When Soo-yeon wants to water the plants, she is like a child pouring water into a pot until it overflows and spills onto the floor. Soo-yeon gets angry when Moon-kwan screams in panic when he sees her pointing sharp scissors at her chid face. It turns out that Soo-yeon wants to cut Yoon's hair because she thinks her hair is ugly. Although it was very concerning, Ji-hyung managed to persuade her to hand over the scissors and said that he would take Yoon to the salon the next day.
내일 미장원 가서 이쁘게 다듬어달라 그러자.
To prevent a similar incident from happening again, Bibi and Moon-kwan immediately secured sharp objects in the kitchen. For the first time, Soo-yeon dared to touch Yoon when she was about to be taken to Ji-hyun's house. She even said goodbye to her and waved goodbye. Unable far away from his nephew, Moon-kwan can only cry, and when Yoon grows up, he will be able to tell his nephew about his older sister's greatness. The next day, Soo-yeon's behavior worsened even more. She even smashed all the photos in her room, tore down all the sticky notes, and asked for them to be burned.
태워! 다 태워버려!
It was incredibly painful for Ji-hyung when his wife no longer remembered him and even called him a strange man who had barged into her room. In front of the closet, Soo-yeon forbade anyone from touching her belongings and accused her aunt of being an evil woman trying to steal her clothes. Now, Soo-yeon sees Ji-hyung as a caregiver who guides her to the bathroom, to the toilet, and helps her get dressed. Despite his sadness, Ji-hyung tries to stay strong as he watches his wife rummage through the closet and put on a sweater on her feet. When Jae-min was at the dining table, she even called him uncle. Now, Soo-yeon doesn't even recognize her aunt and uncle who were present for dinner at her house. Only Moon-kwan, the only name that still sticks in Soo-yeon's memory. Day by day, Soo-yeon becomes more uncontrollable and often kicks her aunt while she's cleaning the house. Trying to stay by her side, Ji-hyung now spends more time at home and only works on Mondays. Even though his parents suggested that Soo-yeon be taken to a care facility, Ji-hyung refused and was willing to fight until the end. At bedtime, Soo-yeon rebelled and hit her husband when he tried to put a diaper on her. She didn't want to be seen as a child, so that she kept resisting.
내가 왜? 내가 애기야? 내가 왜?
Her aunt suggested it because Soo-yeon could no longer controlling urination. But the next day in the living room, Soo-yeon tried to put the diaper on herself. His wife's increasingly worrying actions made him emotional until Ji-hyung could only hug her tightly while screaming and crying.
안 해도 돼, 하지 마, 서연아.
6 years later, Ji-hyung, along with Yoon, who had grown into a beautiful little girl, came to visit a grave bearing the name Soo-yeon. He promised to keep loving his wife even though death had separated them.